this video, we're going to talk about why you struggle to move on from a fearful avoidant ex. And we're going to talk about it from two perspectives. One, why in particular it can be a little bit challenging to move on from someone who has this attachment style because of the nature of their hot and cold behavior and how that impacts you and how that impacts your psychology post-breakup. And we're going to talk about the concept of cognitive dissonance post-breakup and how this concept could actually be deeply affecting you post-breakup with someone with this attachment style. Hi, I'm Katya Morozova. I'm a personal and relationship coach, and I help people overcome heartbreak. I also help them understand themselves and their partners using attachment theory. If that sounds interesting to you, then definitely subscribe to my channel. I'm also the founder of KatyaMorozova.me, and if you'd like to book a one-on-one coaching session with me, you can do so on that website. The first reason it may be difficult to let go of hanging on to a partner who was a fearful avoidant is because of the mixed messages that were likely sent to you by this person. When you go through a breakup, you typically go through this kind of shift in identity where you're trying to figure out what happened, you're trying to figure out who you are today, you're trying to figure out where to put this relationship into the kind of the story arc of your life. And you're basically just trying to make sense of things. So if you look back at your relationship and things just don't add up because you received a lot of confusing or mixed messages from your partner, it may be more difficult to come up with this cohesive story arc where you can kind of put the relationship to rest than it would be with someone who has a more secure attachment style or sends you more consistent messages throughout the relationship. So for instance, if your partner said, I want to build a life with you, or I want to get a place with you, or made some kind of big promise, and then shortly after that, you broke up, they kind of reeled things back in, and maybe they even said to you, I actually need to work on myself. I realized I need more time to figure myself out, or something like that. Those are two very contradictory statements. I want to build a life with you, or I want to live with you, I want to spend my life with you, to I need to work on myself. Again, those are very contradictory statements, and that's going to be very difficult for a person to make sense of. And the reason for that is because once you break up and you no longer have information from this person, maybe they're not willing to give you the information, maybe they can't, or maybe they continue to offer up information that doesn't really make sense about the relationship, about what happened. Then you're left to pick up the pieces on your own and try to make sense of things on your own. And so then you're going to be asking yourself, well, which is it, right? Which part is the truth? Is it that they wanted to build a life with me, or is it that they need to work on themselves? And so you're going to be looking for the truth of that statement, and that's going to make it very challenging for you to move on. Now, maybe a logical part of you says to yourself, well, maybe this person changed their mind. They made this big promise to me, and now they decided that they don't want to be with me anymore, and they need to figure out their own life. And logically, you know that, but emotionally, that's not how it feels. And this is why I think it can be really difficult to, to kind of look at what the truth is in these mixed messages, because I think a lot of times when people date someone who is a fearful avoidant and who can express themselves in these really profound ways, who can make these types of big promises, sometimes even an anxious, preoccupied partner can do this as well. Is that a lot of times when we find people who are so expressive, who make these big promises to us, they're things that we really want to hear. And maybe they're even things that we've been craving and longing for that we haven't heard in a really long time. And so that adds another layer to the mix, because while we want to think about things logically, emotionally, we don't want to let go, because now we've felt something. We felt kind of the holy grail of, oh my gosh, this person wanted to devote themselves to me. They were so loving or affectionate to me. Why would I want to let that go? And the idea of letting go can feel so incredibly painful, because you may be thinking that then you would need to let go of this wish that you just got connected to, this wish to have your needs met in a profound way. Another reason that people struggle to find the truth whenever they're going through a breakup with someone who has a fearful avoidant attachment style is, and I will admit that when I work with people who have dated someone who has a fearful avoidant attachment style, and I hear, this person telling me about this relationship and the things that their partner said to them, and one of the things that I often notice is that I'm confused by what their partner said to them. Like, I would also be confused if someone said that to me. And so something to consider, something to remember is that, the things that people say that don't seem to make sense, the reason that they don't make sense is because people are often afraid or disconnected from the truth within themselves. So when you hear these types of mixed messages from someone who has an FA attachment style, or someone who's just has a really hard time being honest, you want to consider that the truth probably lies somewhere in the middle. Like going back to this example of these big promises that people make sometimes, I'm personally pretty weary of big promises being made, especially early on in a relationship. And especially when they're followed up by someone taking back their promise and even, completely going back on their word, then you want to really look at the truth value of what's being said to you. You want to consider that maybe you're dating someone who isn't capable of being really honest with you. And the origin of that is that they're not really capable of being honest with themselves. They actually don't know what it is that they want. They don't really know what it is that they feel. They don't know what's going on inside of them. And so a lot of times when people are conflicted inside, or they are disconnected from the truth of their experience, they will sometimes make these kind of larger than life promises, or these larger than life kind of regressions out of a relationship that are really driven by, fear, conflict, and confusion. Whereas, someone who's a little bit more connected to themselves probably won't make these same type of assertions. They're probably going to be a lot more cautious. They're going to be a lot more careful with the way that they use their language. They're going to say more of what they mean, and they're going to keep staying connected to what they said. They're not going to oscillate back and forth. So this is also something to consider as you're kind of moving through recovery from someone who's an FA, is to recognize that, you're probably going to drive yourself crazy holding on to what this person said. You want to start to look at their behavior and pull from their behavior the truth of what it is that they actually mean, because maybe what they've done throughout the relationship and how that's impacted you is probably a better place to look for the truth than the truth in those big kind of commitments. A lot of times people try to force themselves, they try to push themselves out of this conflict. They try to push themselves to move on, or maybe they even try to push themselves to reconcile with this person. So rather than pushing yourself, my first advice would be to actually honor the conflict within you. There's a very real conflict inside where one part of you wants to move on. Maybe there's a budding part of you that's starting to reclaim your boundaries, and maybe a part of you knows that you weren't getting all of your needs met in this relationship, while another part of you really connecting with this person. And this person actually helped you connect to something within yourself that was really important for you, that was really profound and meaningful. So this idea of just forcing yourself to just let go, it doesn't often work. So I think the first tip that I would give you is to start to explore both sides of this conflict within yourself. It's like you would if you were talking to a friend, and maybe, that list that people sometimes make, like pros and cons of making a decision. And you were trying to help them come up with a big decision, right? How would you treat your friend in a scenario like this? Would you just tell them to push through on making a really big decision for their life, for themselves? Or would you help them explore all of the different possibilities of maybe why they're conflicted? So you want to be that friend to yourself in this kind of situation. It's going to help you to let go in a much more natural way than trying to push yourself to let go, which is something that never really actually works. We don't just let go. This is a concept. This is a concept like forgiveness. We use these terms like, oh, I just need to let go, or I just need to move on. And I always ask people, well, what does that really mean, right? I think people let go and people move on and people forgive whenever they're ready to, whenever they've come to enough conclusions within themselves, whenever they've resolved enough conflicts within themselves. Finally, let's talk about the concept, the psychological term of cognitive dissonance when it comes to the end of a relationship and moving on versus continuing to hang on. When we go through a breakup, we really we shift from a we to an I. We shift from being a partner to being single, right? There's often a big identity shift that happens when we go from being in a relationship to being, again, single, being by ourselves. And this in itself can be a huge transition for our psychology to undertake. And there can be a number of ways that we can experience this cognitive dissonance, this tension, this discomfort that happens when we hold these contradictory or seemingly contradictory beliefs, values, or attitudes about ourselves or even about our partner. When we break up, we may realize, wow, this person really didn't meet my needs, or maybe they treated me poorly. And that may start to connect you to, some sense of agency or a feeling of anger or frustration when it comes to your partner. We can have cognitive dissonance around that, right? Like we were once a partner who never, let's say we never got angry or we never experienced frustration with our partner. And then all of a sudden we're experiencing all of these emotions, and they're targeted towards this person who we've seemingly only felt loving feelings towards. Well, that can be a huge discomfort. That can be a huge tension to experience. So while, it can be perfectly healthy to feel angry, to feel frustrated, to feel confused about the situation at our partner, especially if they sent us a lot of mixed ideas or mixed messages, it can also, create a lot of tension and discomfort within us when maybe a part of our identity is someone who never gets angry, who's always about our partner, who's always, feeling loving towards this person. So that can create, again, a huge tension inside. And that tension can add to this inner conflict that we're experiencing. It can add to this oscillation where, we want to kind of embrace these things that are true, that, we want to connect to ourselves and and say, yeah, this is how I feel, this is what I want, you know, this is what I'm experiencing. While on the other side, it seems to contradict what we did feel for this person. If you are really struggling to make sense of things, if you're struggling to find the truth about your relationship with a fearful avoidant ex, or maybe even anxious preoccupied partner, and you'd like to restore some cognitive harmony, if you'd like to feel at peace again, then I highly recommend booking a session with me. You know, something I don't typically do is really advise in making behavioral suggestions when I work with clients. You know, I know a lot of therapists work that way and a lot of coaches work that way. One of the things that I often do is actually explore these internal conflicts inside so that they can actually come to a resolution. And when those conflicts come to a resolution, really then the behavior becomes automatic and we often know what to do. So if you're really struggling, if you're experiencing this cognitive dissonance that we've been talking about, if you're experiencing this inner conflict and you'd like that conflict come to a resolution, then I recommend booking a one-on-one session with me where we can explore that together and help you resolve that conflict. You can do so in the description or in the comments below. Did you like this video? If you did, give me a thumbs up and go ahead and subscribe to my channel as well if you want to watch more videos like this that help you recover from a breakup, as well as other videos that help you understand your partner's attachment style. I have both types of videos. Next up is my video titled, Are You Gaslighting Yourself? That might be a really great video to watch after this one. I think you'll really enjoy it if you really like this one. All right, well, I hope to see you on the next one, and thanks so much for watching.